Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're doing another seasonal championship. This one is called Rolling Hills, and yeah, we're in D-Class Classic Sports Cars. So yeah, you know, your MGs, your Austin Healey's, pretty much them, to be honest. Triumph. Basically anything from the 50s, 60s, some of the 70s that have rear-wheel drive, front engine layout, and not particularly all that much in the way of power, but they generally are really rather fun to drive because they are also really rather quite lightweight, and yeah, don't have the widest of tyres, so it's fairly easy to get them sliding around and having a fair bit of fun with them. So although not going to be quite as slidey as this GT500, that's for sure. Yeah, most of them have about 7 times less power than this, so yeah. Let's see what races we're going to be doing and then what cars we can be getting in.
Great to see you've signed up to another autumn championship. I'll try and find time in my schedule to come watch you drive.
So yeah, pair of Austin Healey's there, the Sprite Mark 1 and the 3000 Mark 3. Then we've got the BMW 2002 Turbo, the original Chevrolet Corvette, a brace of Fiats, the Fiat 124 Spider, a Sport Spider, the X19 and the Dino 2.4 Coupe, which you can actually win by doing this championship. It's a phenomenal car, easily one of my favourites on this game. Then we've got the Capri RS 3100, pretty much the UK's equivalent of the Mustang. Then the Elan Sprint, then 3 MGs, the TA Midget, the MGA Twin Cam and the MGB GT. 3 Nissans, which are broadly the same in terms of power, as you can see, but yeah, still all very good cars. And then we've got the Tiger from Sunbeam, basically a Mustang engine in a lightweight British sports car. Surprisingly works really rather well. The 2000 GT, and then all the Triumphs, pretty much, yeah. So the TR6, TR7, TR3B and the Spitfire. So yeah, what to pick? Plenty of great cars here to choose from. Obviously several of these aren't all that much, don't have all that much in the way of power. The TA Midget there only 50 horsepower, which is the least amount on this from this brace of cars to choose from. I think the Sunbeam and the Fiat Dino have the most amount of power. Dino there 180 and the Sunbeam at 200. But I'm a massive fan of the Austin Healey 3000 Mark 3, to be honest. It's got 147 horsepower, 173 pounds-feet of torque from a 2.9 litre naturally aspirated inline 6 engine, and it weighs only 2,604 pounds, pretty well balanced as well. Not got the best stats, and it can only do 0 to 60 in about 9.8 seconds despite having all of that power, and the brakes aren't all that great, but yeah, so yeah, atypical kind of, well, not an atypical, a typical example of a lightweight British sports car from the 50s or 60s. So yeah, let's see what this one can do. Always surprises me that this has more torque than it does horsepower, given it's naturally aspirated and it's only an inline 6, but it certainly lends it some character. I guess it says got the torque it has because it's not the most high revving engine ever. As you can see, it's only about 5,500 RPM, which obviously isn't all that much. It's still got a nice low ground to the inline 6 engine, as you can hear. And even though the brakes aren't all that good, we're not going to be going particularly quick, so it doesn't really matter. And at the end of the day, we're not going to have all that much in the way of weight to slow down either. Got an MG, well, an MG up front. They're all MGs, I think, to be honest. Is that not another Austin Healey in front of us? I can't quite tell. I think it is, to be honest, yeah. This car looks remarkably different in different colours, to be honest. And then we've got a classic Triumph up front. TR3B. This car loves to slide around as well, especially when you floor it out of corners. Pretty much because it's not got the widest of tyres, and yet it's got a fair decent amount of torque behind that engine. Here comes the car's Achilles heel, the brakes. Not particularly brilliant, but everyone else's isn't exactly a high rate either. Obviously, sports cars, low ground clearance, not much in the way of weight, so they do struggle to get through water. Which shouldn't come as a surprise, to be honest. Right, it's 2 Austin Healey's up front, and 2 Triumphs right behind us. It's a shame it's not AS. We don't have more D-class classic sports cars, to be honest, because there are plenty out there in the automotive world to choose from. But we do have probably the best choice of classic sports cars we've ever had on a Forza game before, principally because of the amount of British cars that we actually have on this game. Because obviously we have a pair of Austin Healey's, we have all of the Triumphs that we've had over the years over previous Forza games, including a new TR7 and the TR6, which we never had before. So yeah, I really do like them, to be honest. Just wish there was more of them, because there were plenty out there to choose from, including plenty of variants of ones that we have on this game already, like the MGB GT. We also have, there was obviously the MG V8 version of that, and then obviously the Triumph TR7 had a TR8 version, again having a V8 in it. Both of them had the Rover V8 in them, which obviously we have on this game. It is a choice for that MGB GT to have put in it. Sadly it's not a choice for the TR7, so I really would have liked that to have been an option, or at least have the V8 versions themselves. So I think it would be interesting to see what they're like, to be honest, considering they're really rather quite rare in comparison to their inline 4 versions, and yeah, it'd be nice to see what they're like in comparison. But there we go, the Austin Healey there giving us a resounding win over another 3000 Mark III, the Triumph TR3B in 3rd, an MG MGA in 4th, and another TR3B in 5th, with the, unsurprisingly, the 61 horsepower Fiat X19 all the way down in 12th. But yeah, still a nice lineup of cars there, because obviously then we've got another Fiat in the form of the 124 Spider, then we had a Spitfire, and then a Sprite as well. So yeah, there's a nice variety of cars, even though obviously they're all front engine rear wheel drive. They are still all different in their own kind of way. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get on to the second race. So the 3000 Mark III there did us really rather well, surprisingly so given how poor the brakes are, but as you'll see for plenty of other cars on that we've got to choose from, the braking is not always the best element to the cars. Plenty of them are below 4 or just in the 4.0 range. So yeah, there's not the best element to the cars, but they do have plenty of power in relative to their size and weight. And one of those is this Capri RS 3100, which, yeah, is probably the newest car here, 73. Yeah, the Skyline HD is 73 as well. Oh yeah, the Triumph TR7 is the newest, that's 1979. But still, all part of the 70s, which is again a decade that is woefully underrepresented on these kind of games. But yeah, the Capri is, like I said, the UK's equivalent to the Ford Mustang, especially in comparison to the first ever iteration of the Mustang, 'cause it's lightweight, it's rear wheel drive, front engine, and yeah, it was hugely popular at the time, and it's got a decent amount of power as well, 148 horsepower and 187 pounds-feet of torque from its 3.1 litre inline 6. Is it inline 6 or V6? I can't remember which, to be honest, but either way, it's still got plenty of power, and it's pretty much similar to the Austin Healey there. 1 more torques and 1 more horsepower even, and 14 extra pounds-feet of torque. Less in the way of weight though, despite being a more modern car. So yeah, and this does have good brakes. So well, good brakes for the time. So it shouldn't have trouble getting to a stop if needs be. It's quite foggy on this circuit, to be honest, but regardless, let's see what the Capri can do. Higher revving than the Austin Healey as well. To be honest, I'd actually say this is probably sportier than the Austin Healey, despite obviously being a more practical coupe than that two-seater sports car. That's probably why this was such a hit at the time. You know, it's got plenty of room in the back, it's got plenty of room in the boot, and yet it's far quicker than most cars from the day. Also, always surprises me how lightweight this car is. It's squeak over 2,300 pounds is extremely light for a car of this type, especially from the 70s as well, when in America, for instance, cars were getting heavier and heavier, so well, they were in terms of their full-size cars. Obviously they were trying to bring in their economy cars, but even they weren't always the lightest of things. Look at the AMC Pacer, for instance, which was ludicrously heavy for a economy car. Never mind the insanely large inline 6 engine it had going for it. A pair of Corvettes dominating the top three so far. And Austin Healey is roaring up behind us. Surprised the Corvette is in front, to be honest, because it's got less power than we do. I think it has more torque, but it is also heavier and only has a miserable 2-speed automatic gearbox to play with, which is still my biggest problem with that car. I don't care if it was badly built or, you know, only has an inline 6 engine and, you know, doesn't have all that much power. It's the gearbox in that car that really ruins it, especially considering how great it looks and the nice white exterior to the red interior, which will really complement one another. But yeah, it's just a shame that gearbox spoils that car's enjoyment factor, which is the case for a lot of American cars, to be honest, in terms of their gearboxes. I'm fine with them when they have the 4-speed, but when they have 2 or 3, it's really hard to enjoy, especially if it's supposed to be a performance vehicle. And Austin Healey has come from the rear. I do love driving these cars. Yeah, they're far from the most powerful that you can drive on this game, but they're somehow more fun and somehow better to drive. Obviously not dynamically, but in terms of what the fun they can provide and the racing that they can provide and all that lot, they're just generally more fun. I'd especially the driver's cars were a little bit more challenging, not to the point of being unbeatable, because that is the only other level that we have to choose from that is higher than what we're at, but you know, a middle ground really. Seems like the only time they catch up is when I make a mistake or start prattling around, drifting around corners. And yet when they're unbeatable, they are very difficult to catch up to the point where it isn't any fun. But regardless, the Capri there giving us a second win. Not British, obviously, like the 3000 Mark III, which is in second place, but American like the Corvette. from 1953, and then we got an MG MGB in 4th, and then another Corvette from 1953 in 5th. So yeah, nicely done there with the Capri. Really rather enjoyed driving that. Not the fastest lap though. The MGB had the not even that MGB. The Triumph TR6 had the fastest lap, which is no surprise that as. Yeah, that's a really rather good sports car to be honest. But regardless, we've got 40 points now, 12 points ahead of a Corvette, 14 points ahead of another Corvette, 16 points ahead of the 3000 Mark III, and 22 points ahead of the MGB. So yeah, regardless, let's get on to the third and final race. So a win there from the Capri. So we've had a British car, we've had an American car, so let's see if we can pick a car from another country. So yeah, we've got Japan to choose from, we've got Italy and Germany to choose from. I am tempted by the 2002 Turbo. It's got a fair decent amount of power and torque, again more torque than power like the Austin Healey and the Capri, and it doesn't weigh that much either, and yeah, it is generally an all-round good car, but to be honest I find it a little bit boring. It just doesn't excite me in terms of the way it looks, and yeah, it's got good performance and all that lot, but again I'm just not excited by it in any massive way to be honest. So Japan is only our other option to be honest, or Italy. I am tempted to go for the Fiat Dino. I know I've used it several times before, but it is a cracking car, and yet to see anyone tell me why it isn't. So yeah, I think we'll go for it. I know it's heavy, and yeah, it's not got the most amount of power from a vehicle in this championship. There are more powerful cars here, and like I said, it weighs a fair bit at more than 3,000 pounds, but 180 horsepower from a 2.4 litre V6 isn't bad. And at the end of the day, our handling and the braking is really rather superb, and it's nicely balanced as well. So yeah, we'll get in the Dino. At the end of the day, may as well show off the car that you actually meant to win by doing this championship, if you don't already have this car. And you can see why I rave about it, and then think about whether or not you want to do the championship to actually get it. So yeah, I think it looks superb, and if you care about these kind of things, it has a Ferrari V6 engine, although Ferrari themselves didn't do much good with it. Fiat did far better with this car, and Lancia also did far better with it in the Stratos. But yeah, nice high revving engine, great looks, superb amount of acceleration and speed, and the handling is sublime. Easily probably one of the better handling cars here. I'm not showing that off right now because I am trying to race and taking more chances than I normally would if I was just driving around, but trust me, the handling on this is really rather good, and you can have a lot of fun with it as well when the time is right. Also sounds good as well. For some reason, despite being the same engine as the Dino 246 GT, I think it is, from Ferrari, it just sounds better in this than it does in the Ferrari, to be honest. Making up for a bit of a calamitous start with that corner. And at the end of the day, this has practicality over the Ferrari as well. It's got rear seats, it's got a decent sized boot, and yeah, you would never be afraid of scraping the nose off on this like you would in the Ferrari. Corner catches a lot of people out because not only is it quite a deceivingly sharp corner, but obviously you're also going downhill coming into it, so it's not just your speed that you have to be wary of, it's your momentum as well, which some people obviously don't take into account, like I did first time round, but I did get it the second time round, which is fine. So yeah, we've got a Capri in front of us, and then a Skyline, and then an Austin Healey behind us. I've chosen two of the best cars here with the Capri and the Austin Healey. See if this Dino can be the third best car on this championship. I've chosen, obviously we've got the Skyline to contend with, which is pretty much as powerful as this. It's lighter. And being slightly more modern, it's probably got better suspension and brakes as well. Is that a Triumph Spitfire? Yes it is. It's coming from nowhere. Clearly upgraded because that only has about 61 horsepower I think in stock. So yeah, there's no way a normal one of them would keep up with us. And the Skyline is struggling to get up that hill. And there we go, our third and final win with the superb Dino, which is probably my favourite car of the bunch that we had to choose from, giving us another 20 points, 18 points ahead of the Nissan that we just beat, 22 points ahead of the Capri, 29 points ahead of the 3000 Mark III, and 30 points ahead of the Spitfire. So yeah, really well have a fun championship. You do get that Dino if you win this championship, which as you've seen is a really good car. Easily capable of keeping up with other classics from the day, and yeah, at the end of the day you get more money out of it, you get some fun racing, and yeah, a car even at the end, even if you don't like the car, you can always sell it on an auction. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.